I assisted my partner in securing a position at the company where I work. Barely 2 months later, I was summoned to Human Resources. She had submitted a formal complaint accusing me of harassment, clearly aiming to displace me from my role. When I confronted her that same evening, she responded without a trace of guilt. "It's not personal, I just recognized an opening." I remained silent. I allowed the internal investigation to run its course without interference. This morning, her credentials were revoked across all systems. She has already left 52 missed calls, and the number keeps climbing. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the wreckage. For context, I'm 32, male, and have been with a mid-sized software firm in Seattle for roughly 4 years. I began as a regular developer and climbed to principal architect for our flagship product. The compensation is solid, the benefits are strong, and most importantly, I truly love the work and the people I lead. About 14 months ago, I met Emma, 29F, at a mutual friend's apartment warming gathering. We connected instantly. She was sharp, driven, and appeared to share my core principles. At the time, she was employed at a cash-strapped early-stage startup. We started dating, and the relationship accelerated quickly. Within 3 months, she had moved into my condo, and we were openly discussing a future together. 6 months in, her startup conducted brutal layoffs. She was let go with zero notice during a Friday afternoon video call, classic tech industry cruelty. For weeks, she applied everywhere, but the market had frozen. Roles that once attracted a handful of resumes were now flooded with hundreds. Watching her self-confidence crumble was excruciating. Then, almost miraculously, a junior engineer opening appeared on a separate team at my company. It was a step down from the mid-level role she'd held, but it was stable, well-known, and offered real growth potential. I was hesitant. Mixing romance and the workplace has always made me uneasy, but seeing her spiral, I decided to help. I reached out to the hiring manager, Sarah, someone I've known and trusted for years. I was transparent. Evaluate Emma strictly on merit, but please give her application a fair look. My endorsement opened the door for the first interview. She crushed the coding exercise and every subsequent round on her own. 2 weeks later, she received the offer. I was over the moon for her. The first several weeks felt idyllic. We carpooled, occasionally grabbed lunch in the cafeteria, and she went out of her way to keep everything impeccably professional. No lingering touches, no favors expected. If anything, she overperformed to silence any whisper of nepotism. Then, roughly 8 weeks in, subtle shifts began. She started staying late to make a strong impression. She was suddenly invited to cross-functional leadership syncs, highly unusual for someone at her level. She asked increasingly detailed questions about my product's architecture, data flows, and strategic roadmap. I thought it was sweet. She was eager to learn the bigger picture. I was catastrophically naive. Last Monday, I was asked to step into an unscheduled meeting with HR and our VP of engineering. The moment I saw their expressions, dread hit me. HR does not pull you in same day for positive reasons. They informed me a female employee had filed a serious harassment complaint against me, leveraging authority to coerce a subordinate into a romantic relationship, implying continued employment depended on that relationship, and fostering a hostile environment. I was stunned. My professional conduct has always been above reproach. They refused to disclose the complainant's identity to protect the process, placed me on immediate remote work for a different initiative, and said the investigation would take time. I packed my laptop in front of colleagues whose eyes I could feel boring into my back and left the building in a daze. That night, Emma came home unusually late, practically vibrating with energy. She launched into an animated story about being invited to present ideas directly to the CTO. I sat on the couch, numb, and it all suddenly crystallized. Did you file the harassment report against me? I cut in. Her face flickered, shock, then ice. What are you talking about? Because I spent my afternoon in HR learning that someone accused me of exactly the things you would need proven to take my job. She held the innocent mask for another beat, then dropped it. A long sigh. Fine. Yes, it's already done. Why? My voice was flat. I'm grateful you got me in the door, she said, shrugging as if discussing the weather. But junior engineer was never going to get me where I need to be fast enough. Your seat, however. She let the sentence hang. So the plan was always to use me as a stepping stone and then remove me? Not from day one, she admitted, and for once it felt honest. But once I understood the org structure, the decision-making bottlenecks, the influence you actually wield, I realized the conventional ladder would take years. I don't have years. And us? Our relationship. She gave me a look that bordered on pity. We were already drifting, Nolan. You're comfortable exactly where you are. I'm not wired that way. The spark had been gone for months. I felt the words like a slap. So you decided false allegations were cleaner than a breakup? A breakup wouldn't have solved my career trajectory, she replied, utterly matter-of-fact. And I have receipts. Every late-night Slack message about architecture, every weekend email thread. Context is everything. HR always errs on the side of caution with the accuser. By the time the dust settles, I'll already be established in the role. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smash anything. I simply said, pack whatever you need tonight. You have until tomorrow evening to be out. She folded her arms. My name is on the lease too. Then I'll go. But we are finished. Completely. You're overreacting. The flicker in her eyes told me she finally understood the line she'd crossed was non-negotiable. Fine, she muttered, gathering clothes and toiletries with theatrical huffs, as though I were the unreasonable one. At the door, she paused. None of this would have been necessary if you'd just fast-tracked me yourself, put me on critical projects, recommended me for leadership tracks. But no, you were always so obsessed with optics and earning it. Some of us don't have the privilege of patience. Then she was gone, and I stood in the sudden silence of the apartment, replaying every conversation, every document she'd glanced at on my screen, every system design I'd walked her through. And then I remembered something that gave me oxygen. I am obsessive about records. Version-controlled chat logs, email archives, recorded stand-ups with consent banners, meticulous meeting notes, everything. The next morning, instead of panicking or lawyering up prematurely, I sent HR a calm, professional note. I fully support a thorough investigation and have complete confidence the facts will speak for themselves. Please let me know what materials would be helpful. Then I built the dossier out a minute-by-minute timeline of every single work interaction with Emma, always in group settings or public channels. Signed statements from colleagues who witnessed our strictly professional demeanor. Screenshots of personal texts and photos proving we were already cohabiting and in a committed relationship long before she ever interviewed. Call logs, boarding passes, and dated photos from vacations establishing an irrefutable pre-employment romance, transcripts of the very architecture deep dives she later tried to weaponize. Turns out they were official recorded sessions she had requested to attend for learning. Emails where she explicitly asked me for guidance outside work hours, proving initiation came from her. That I handed everything over neatly organized, and then I waited. I threw myself into the temporary project, delivered early, and stayed visibly calm. For 2 weeks, radio silence. Emma moved the rest of her belongings out while I worked from various coffee shops. Whispers reached me that she was presenting roadmap suggestions eerily similar to my own unpublished designs. Yesterday, the VP and head of people asked me to come in first thing this morning. The tone was markedly different, subdued, almost embarrassed. The meeting lasted 12 minutes. The investigation found zero substantiation for the allegations. In fact, clear evidence emerged that the complaint was fabricated in bad faith to engineer an internal power shift. They apologized profusely, reinstated me immediately with back pay and a disruption bonus, and assured me the employee in question was being handled according to policy. I thanked them, kept my composure, and walked back to my real desk. Moments later, a company-wide reorg announcement went out. My name and title were restored in bold, along with a new strategic initiative placed under my leadership. Emma's name had vanished entirely. Within an hour, my phone exploded. First texts, "What did you do?" Then, "My badge is deactivated." Then a flood of calls, 52 by the time I muted everything. Rumor has it she arrived this morning, tried to badge in, was escorted to HR, informed of immediate termination for ethics violations and malicious false reporting, and did not leave quietly. Security walked her out while she shouted about misunderstandings and demanded to speak with the CTO. Last sighting. Pacing the sidewalk for hours trying to wave down former colleagues, I don't feel triumph. I feel exhausted and strangely sad that someone I loved could be this coldly strategic. But I also feel vindicated that staying calm, documenting relentlessly, and letting the truth do the heavy lifting actually worked. I've blocked her everywhere and am crashing at a buddy's place while I change the locks. Sometimes the sharpest revenge is simply refusing to descend to their level and letting their own rope hang them. Update: 1 week later, the support from the original post was overwhelming and genuinely helped me through the darkest days. So here's the promised follow-up. The week has been a whirlwind. After I blocked her primary number, Emma cycled through burner emails, messages via mutual acquaintances, even a physical letter pushed under my friend's door. Still have no idea how she got that address. Unsettling. Her tone progressed exactly as predicted. Rage minimization, victimhood bargaining. I responded to none of it. 3 days ago, she somehow obtained my mother's cell number and called hysterically claiming we were secretly engaged and having a lover's quarrel. My mom shut her down with surgical precision. Funny, he never mentioned an engagement, and I've never met you. Qley, the office, the reception has been heartwarming. My team greeted me like a soldier returning from the front. While I was sidelined, Emma had begun pushing architectural changes that would have created massive downstream problems. My stand-in pushed back. She escalated to leadership, claiming the ideas originated with me. The fallout could have been catastrophic. The VP later disclosed more details off-record. Her biggest miscalculation was choosing the wrong target. My reputation for meticulousness and calm under fire is well known. Hers was still unproven. When my evidence package demolished her story, investigators dug deeper and uncovered selective self-forwarding of highly confidential spec documents, plagiarism of multiple senior engineers' suggestions in leadership presentations, draft emails saved on the company account where she literally workshopped different versions of her harassment narrative, complete with bookmarked articles on how to document toxic behavior. Those drafts were the nail in the coffin. Workplace-wise, the company has quietly tightened access controls and added safeguards around malicious complaints without chilling real ones. My situation became the unfortunate case study. Personally, I'm sorting the apartment. Both names on the lease complicates things, but the landlord is sympathetic. I'll either pay the early termination fee or ride it out solo for the remaining 4 months. Either way, I'm never sleeping there again. Some couple friends initially bought her tearful version. A few even suggested I let her have the role if she wanted it that badly. Those friendships are now former friendships. The hiring manager who originally extended the offer took me to coffee and apologized for the unintended consequences. I told her unequivocally it wasn't her fault. She hired a strong candidate who interviewed brilliantly. None of us are mind readers. I've started therapy. 2 sessions in and already helpful for untangling why I missed the red flags and how to trust my gut again. Yesterday I signed a lease on a new high-rise with 24-hour concierge security. I'm buying all new furniture. Total clean slate. Emma's contact attempts have finally tapered to almost 0. Word in the Seattle tech scene travels fast. At least 2 companies have already reached out to me for reference checks on her. I confirm dates and title only. Facts require no embellishment. Final update: 2 months later, I think it's time to close the book. Professionally, everything is not just back to normal, it's objectively better. The product I architected launched to great internal reviews. The near-disaster forged tighter trust with my team than ever before. Upper leadership created a new senior principal architect title for me. Expanded scope, meaningful equity refresh, the works. They wanted to make it crystal clear they value me after what happened. The company also rolled out measured improvements to their reporting process. Still fully supportive of real victims, but with additional verification steps when claims could radically alter someone's career. Emma-wise. Contact ceased entirely after I sent a formal cease and desist letter through counsel enumerating everything I knew, the forwarded specs, the draft accusations, etc. That seemed to finally penetrate that there was no viable counter-narrative. 3 weeks later, I received an unsolicited email from an unfamiliar address containing a single PDF. An actual apology. It was long, unvarnished, and took full ownership with 0 excuses. She wrote that therapy had started uncovering how growing up in an environment where affection was tied to achievement warped her moral compass. Again, not asking for forgiveness or even a reply, just needing to say it. That I didn't respond, but it humanized her in a way I wasn't expecting. I hope she continues the work. She has apparently relocated to Austin and taken a role significantly below her previous level. Whether that's consequence or continuation of pattern, I neither know nor care anymore. I'm fully moved into the new place. Back to weekend hikes, picking up guitar again, even took a knife skills cooking class on a whim. Dating is on a very distant back burner. I'm not bitter or jaded, just intentionally solo while I recalibrate my picker. The biggest positive has been the deepening of real friendships and family bonds that showed up when everything looked bleakest. Lessons learned. The non-cliché version: helping someone you love professionally isn't inherently wrong. Refusing to out of fear is its own kind of cowardice. The critical skill is observing patterns over time and enforcing boundaries the moment they're tested. Sharing knowledge generously is still who I am. I'm just far more selective about who gets proximity to my life. I never pursued civil action. The company's response was decisive, and prolonging the fight would only have kept the wound bleeding. Sometimes closure is choosing the clean cut over the deepest one. This will always be a chapter, but it no longer gets to write the rest of the story. Thank you again to everyone who listened, advised, and reminded me I wasn't crazy or alone. Onward.tl. Dr. The ex who tried to torpedo my career with fabricated allegations is now hundreds of miles away, facing natural professional fallout, and sent a genuine, unanswered apology. I received a promotion, a new home, stronger relationships, and most importantly, peace. Turns out the sweetest revenge is simply refusing to let someone's poison redefine you.